You arrive 10 minutes early just in case. Not because you're eager, God knows you've done enough of that dance, but because punctuality is the last armor you have. You ironed your shirt twice. You pressed your palms flat against your jeans to keep from fidgeting. And yet, as you step through the doors of the venue, your company saved from closure 6 months ago, not a single soul acknowledges you. No hugs, no nods, no, hey, glad you could make it. Just the blur of lace and linen and clinking glasses all orbiting around your brother and the woman who once mistook you for a waiter at a family brunch. The woman who, in less than 20 minutes, will officially become your sister-in-law. You glance at the seating chart pinned to a faux rustic easel, handwritten names in curling gold ink. Your name's not even on it. For a second, you think maybe it's a mistake that maybe someone forgot. Then one of the event staff, ironically from your own payroll, nods and gestures toward a swinging door near the back. In the kitchen, she says without apology, you don't even ask, you just walk through. It's not a kitchen exactly. It's more like a service corridor where waiters take their 15 minutes lined with steel prep tables and those awful industrial light bulbs that make everything look tired. There's a stool with a paper napkin taped to it. Your name scribbled in pen. Misspelled. You sit. Of course you sit. You've always been the one who tries not to cause a scene. Someone hands you a plate. Cold shrimp, dry chicken, a roll that crumbles like sawdust. Not a single drink in sight until someone remembers and shoves a solo cup into your hand with a distracted oops. You nod thanks, you don't mean. You hear the music swelling in the main room. The officiant begins. You can't see anything, just steam hissing from the dishwater and a flickering fluorescent bulb overhead that keeps threatening to give up. You laugh quietly. Because it's not funny, not really. But there's something absurd in being excluded from your own brother's wedding while sitting inside a building you technically own. And still part of you thinks, maybe there's a reason. Maybe it was just logistics. Maybe they ran out of seats. But deep down, you know better. You remember the last family gathering, the side eyes, the way your brother joked loudly that you were the weird one with spreadsheets for a soul, the way your father looked away when your mother asked if you were dating anyone, as if your personal life were some optional side quest they were too bored to complete. And now you're literally seated where the trash gets taken out. You think about texting someone, maybe Leah from work, the only person who knows the full scope of what you did for this venue for this day. But you don't, because that would require explaining. And explaining would require admitting that yes, you showed up expecting a chair at the table, and no, you didn't get one. You swirl your drink. The cup is flimsy, the kind that warps with heat and folds if you grip it too tightly. You wonder what would happen if you crushed it in your palm and let the champagne spill everywhere. Would anyone even notice? The ceremony ends. You hear the crowd erupt in applause. The photographer calls for the couple. Flashbulbs, laughter, the rattle of silverware being reset for dinner. You wonder if you'll be moved or if this stool, this corner, this fluorescent hell is all you're getting. Someone, maybe a cousin, sticks their head in and says, "Hey, you good?" You nod. They don't wait for an answer. Of course they don't. You sip what's left in your cup, warm, flat. You look around at the workers. They smile at you politely, even respectfully. Maybe some of them recognize you. Maybe they don't. Either way, they treat you better than your family does. And somewhere between the shrimp and the second missed toast, it hits you. They never planned to seat you at the table. They didn't forget. They just didn't think you mattered enough to include. That's when something inside you, something you thought was long since silent, starts to hum. Not loudly, not vengefully, just enough to remind you that you're not helpless. Not anymore. You don't remember standing up, but somehow you're on your feet. Solo cup abandoned on the prep counter. The corridor's too quiet now, just the muffled bass of a generic love song leaking through the walls. You crack the swinging door an inch, just enough to peek. They're all out there. Your parents at the head table, faces pulled taut in that strange mixture of obligation and pride. Your brother's laughing, leaning into his new wife like they're in a commercial for happiness. The champagne flutes sparkle. The photographer flits from table to table, snapping candids like moments can be bottled. You scan the room. No empty seats, of course. Someone sets a tray down near you. It's got a line of tiny desserts, delicate, perfect little pastries. You think about stealing one just out of spite, but it feels beneath you, like everything else tonight. You let them be. Back on the stool, you feel the plastic crease of the name tag under your thigh. You peel it off and stare at it. Your name is spelled wrong. And not just misspelled, mocked. It's your childhood nickname, the one your cousins used to chant when they wanted to remind you you were always a little too serious, too awkward, too much. It wasn't a mistake. You press the paper flat, fold it in half, and tuck it into your wallet. Not out of sentiment, but because a record should be kept. Every snub deserves documentation. The door swings open again. This time it's your uncle. He peeks in and grimaces. They stuck you back here? You raise your eyebrows. Seems so. He laughs nervously, steps in like he doesn't know if he's allowed. Well, hey, at least you're not dealing with Aunt Marcy. She's already 2 glasses in and flirting with the DJ. You nod, you smile. He stays just long enough to say, you know your brother didn't mean anything by it. Weddings are chaos. Sure you say. He leaves. It's not chaos. It's choreography. Every person at that wedding was placed intentionally. Every seat, every +1, every place card, including the one that wasn't on the easel. You watch as a waiter walks by someone from your operations team. You don't say anything. You don't need to. They catch your eye for half a second and then glance down professional instinct. But the look you give them is enough. They'll remember. You stand again slower this time, deliberate. You smooth your shirt. The music swells again, the first dance is happening. You hear clapping the kind people do when they're told now's the time to be sentimental. You imagine your mother clutching her pearls, your father nodding stoically. You walk the length of the service hall past the dishwasher, past a whiteboard with scribbled notes about meal preferences and allergy warnings. You reach the staff lockers. One of them is still ajar. Inside is your bag. You fish out your phone. No signal. Not in this corner. You move toward the back door step outside into the loading dock. The evening air is cool and indifferent. A breeze lifts your collar like even it knows you're about to do something irreversible. You unlock your phone, scroll, find the name. Leah. You type one sentence. Clause 17.1 initiate. You don't even add punctuation. You stare at the screen for another 5 seconds, then hit send. It's not vengeance, not really. It's enforcement. They wanted a fairy tale. You gave them a castle. They wanted to ignore you. You gave them a foundation. They wanted to control the optics. You control the lease. Clause 17.1 isn't dramatic. It's not even aggressive. It's just clean, quiet. A contractual right of revocation in the event of breach, disrespect, or reputational harm. Most people overlook it. You added it last year after a vendor called one of your female employees sweetheart during a contract negotiation. And now here it is again, breathing beneath your thumb, like a quiet sleeping animal finally stirred. You head back inside. The service hallway is emptier now. Most of the staff are busy tending to guests. You walk past your stool, past your napkin name. The main room is just ahead. You stop behind the swinging door and watch. They're dancing now. Your brother spinning his bride like she's weightless. Your cousins filming with their phones. That smile on your mom's face so wide it almost hides how rarely you see it. And still not one glance your way. You remember the years, the sacrifices, the way you skipped college parties to work on your startup, the Christmases you missed while securing funding, the birthday your mother spent sobbing because you didn't fly home. Never mind you were finalizing a deal that kept their mortgage rates low when dad's consulting work dried up. You did all of that, and tonight you sit on a metal stool next to the dishwasher. But now things will begin to change. Not loud, not messy, just one small shift, a signal, a beginning. You lean back against the wall listening, and you wait. The song fades out, and another begins. Something slower now, a classic. Frank Sinatra, or maybe Etta James, one of those wedding-safe melodies designed to glide through champagne fog and polite conversation without ever tugging too hard at anyone's heart. You stay where you are just beyond the door, half shadowed by the frame. No one notices. Or, if they do, they pretend not to. You've gotten used to that being the ghost at your own family gatherings. Too quiet, too calculating too much of something they couldn't name. You listen to the laughter. The toast, then you hear it, a voice slurred slightly. Honestly, I'm surprised he even showed up. You don't need to peek to know who it is. Your new sister-in-law's cousin. You remember her from the engagement party, the one who asked what it was you did again, but said it like the question itself bored her. Another voice, hers this time. Well, his parents had to invite him. Image, right? A tiny eruption of polite laughter. But at least he knows his place. That one stings more than you expect. Knows your place. You replay it like it might somehow change with repetition, as if the words could wear out and lose their shape. But they don't. They settle in. You think about how often you've let things slide. For years, you let their dismissiveness masquerade as banter. You let their backhanded compliments pass as familial affection. You told yourself you were imagining it, that you were too sensitive. But tonight, as you stand just beyond the edge of their fairy tale, you realize something else. They didn't want you here because they couldn't ignore you anymore. They didn't seat you at the table because they were afraid you might ruin the illusion. You were too real, too visible. A walking contradiction to the lie that this family ever moved forward as one. You step back from the door. There's a small mirror above the hallway sink. You catch a glimpse of yourself. The tie you adjusted 3 times this morning. The shirt with the faint lavender thread no one noticed. The look in your eyes, not anger exactly, just certainty. You smooth your hair, adjust your collar, and then you walk slow, deliberate steps into the kitchen proper. One of the staff glances up. Recognition flickers. You okay, they ask? You nod, just needed a minute. And you mean it. Because somewhere between the toast and that casual insult, you've made peace with what's about to happen. You're not doing this to be petty. You're not here to crash a wedding or burn a bridge. You're here to deliver a message, one that's been building for years. You return to the service corridor, pull out your phone again. Another message. Confirm receipt in action, no delay. You send it to Leah. She won't question it. She knows the situation. You told her everything minus the emotions, of course. But Leah's sharp. She filled in the blanks. She always does. You slip your phone back into your pocket. Then you hear a knock, soft, urgent, at the back hallway door. One of the venue managers pokes her head in. Her eyes scan the corridor, find you. There you are, she says. You arch an eyebrow. Problem. She hesitates, clearly not wanting to involve you. Then quietly, we received an alert. A contract alert. I've been told to speak with the principal. You gesture toward yourself. That's me. Her eyes widen just a hair. I need to ask, she says, is this a real revocation? You nod. Clause 17.1. Non-material disrespect, triggered by cumulative insult. It's within our rights. She doesn't argue. Instead, she glances back toward the main room. Do you want us to stop everything now? You consider it. Think of that moment just before the song fades and a new one begins. The hush between joy and discomfort. Wait 10 minutes, you say. Finish the meal service. Let them think the night is theirs. She nods, and with that she vanishes again. You return to the corridor. You sit back down on the stool, the one with the crumpled napkin that now feels like part of a museum exhibit. A piece of evidence. You take another sip from your forgotten solo cup. The drink's warm now, slightly bitter, but you finish it anyway. Because you're done swallowing things you didn't ask for. 10 minutes, 10 minutes, and then the contract becomes more than fine print. It becomes something they can't ignore. A reminder that quiet people are still watching, still documenting, still waiting. You smile to yourself. For once, it's not a forced one. You check the time. 8 minutes left. The kitchen feels different now. Less like exile, more like a waiting room. The hum of the refrigerator, the sharp click of heels from a staff member rushing past, even the muffled jazz standard playing in the background. It all sounds cleaner, sharper, like the air just shifted and no one else knows a storm's about to break. You glance at your phone. Leah's replied. Understood. Reversion underway. Legal team CC'd. You're covered. Short, professional, ruthless in the calmest way. Just like you taught her. You smile and tuck the phone away. You've never been a fan of dramatic gestures. That's their thing. Grand speeches, weepy moments for Instagram, overcompensating like performance is love. You prefer mechanisms, levers, contracts. You gave them this venue. You gifted them beauty polish, a place where even the bathroom lighting flatters. And they didn't just fail to thank you, they pretended you weren't even in the room. Correction, they made sure you weren't in the room. And now they're about to find out what absence actually feels like. You step quietly toward the main room again. The doors crack now, one of the staff left it ajar. You can see the dance floor. The lights are golden dreamy, casting a glow on everything like they think they're inside a memory. The bride is twirling with her father. The guests are clapping politely, all smiles and half-full flutes. You scan for your parents. They're sitting near the front, nodding and mouthing the lyrics like they know the song. Your mother's eyes sweep the room, skipping over you like your negative space. Your father sips his wine, his face unreadable. You remember being 8 years old, showing him your perfect spelling test, and watching him say, "That's nice," without even looking up from the paper. That tone never changed, even when the company passed its first million, even when you paid off their mortgage without telling them, even when you saved this venue from foreclosure and kept their son's wedding plans from collapsing. They didn't say thank you then. They won't say thank you now. But soon they'll have no choice but to acknowledge you. You hear a chair scrape behind you. You turn and find the venue manager again, this time walking with more intent. "They're ready," she says quietly. "Your team's confirmed receipt. We can initiate in 60 seconds. You nod. Wait until the music stops. She smiles like she almost understands. Understood. You return to your perch, fold your arms, breathe in. The song ends. There's a swell of applause. Some cousin gives a loud cheer. Then the microphone crackles. Your brother's voice? He's thanking everyone, the guests, the staff, the venue. He calls it the perfect place to begin forever. You snort softly. That's when the lights shift. Not off, just slightly dimmed. Enough to cause a few confused glances. The background music stalls. The venue manager steps discreetly onto the floor and motions to someone behind the curtain. You watch your sister-in-law's expression flicker confusion, then mild panic. She whispers to your brother, who frowns. The microphone squeals and goes dead. Someone from the AV crew moves to fix it, but they're intercepted by security. Not dramatic, just firm, quiet. The manager approaches your brother and leans in. You can't hear what she says, but you don't need to. His face says everything. Shock, then disbelief, then recognition. He turns slowly, scanning the room, and for the first time that night, his eyes find you. It's like he's never actually seen you before. His mouth opens slightly, then closes. He whispers something to his wife, who stares at you, like she's remembering your name in real time. You don't wave, you don't smirk, you just look back at him, calm, unmoved. Let them connect the dots. Let them remember how they laughed when you offered to help with the wedding plans, how they declined politely but firmly. We've got it all covered. Let them remember how your mother said, "Just come as a guest, darling, this isn't your world." And now their world is crumbling in real time. The manager reappears beside them with a folder. Paperwork. You know what it says. Clause 17(1). Termination of service due to disrespect toward the principal provider. A few guests begin to whisper. The lights dim further. The music has not resumed. And in the absence of those distractions, silence grows. You hear a voice from the crowd, someone asking if it's part of the schedule, if this is a surprise intermission. No one answers. You stand and walk slowly to the edge of the corridor, just enough for them all to see you. You hold their gaze for 3 seconds. Then you turn and walk away. Not rushed, not triumphant, just done. You don't look back as you pass through the kitchen. There's no need to. You've already said everything without opening your mouth. The hallway feels longer this time, stretching behind you like a timeline full of things left unsaid. All those years, all those little slights that piled up like laundry no one ever offered to help fold. But you're not carrying them anymore. Outside, the air feels different, lighter. The evening breeze brushes against your skin like a quiet nod from the universe. You pause just before the loading dock, listening. Inside, chaos is blooming like clockwork. You hear voices, not angry yet, but confused. The kind of confusion that doesn't know where to place itself. Then the questions begin. Guests asking about the lights, the music, the sudden disappearance of staff from the floor. You imagine your brother reading the clause in the contract, heart sinking with each line. The realization that he signed without reading carefully, that he ignored the small paragraph labeled "respect of originating entity and its principal," the paragraph you fought to include after years of people treating you like a background character in your own success. You lean against the brick wall outside, watching cars pass on the street. It's a normal night to everyone else. just another Saturday evening. But in that glittering room behind you, reality is shifting. Your phone buzzes. Status confirmed. Venue access now limited to essential personnel. Formal announcement pending. Leah again, efficient as ever. You reply with a single emoji. Then you pocket the phone and breathe. You didn't plan this out of malice. That's the part no one will understand. This wasn't revenge. It was a boundary. A line drawn so carefully, so quietly, it didn't even look like a line until someone tripped over it. And trip they did. A staff member exits the building, startled to find you there. They blink, then remember who you are. Then nod with that kind of professional awkwardness only someone in hospitality can manage. You okay, sir? Better than I've been in years. They nod again, unsure how to respond. Then they vanish down the alley, keys jangling. You turn and lean against the wall, the brick pressing cool against your back. Inside, someone's trying to take control. You hear your father's voice, now measured, commanding. The kind of tone that used to silence you when you were 12 and too curious for his liking. You imagine him demanding to know what's happening, demanding answers from staff who now report to you. You doubt they'll give him much. That's not how your contracts work. After all, the fine print matters. You close your eyes for a moment. The cool breeze, the city noise, it all wraps around you like a reminder that the world is bigger than this single family, this single moment. You remember a night 6 years ago. You were working late, still building the bones of the company. Your brother called drunk, maybe bored, and said, "No offense, but no one really wants to hire a guy like you. You're just not very relatable." You laughed then, said nothing, hung up, and went back to work. Tonight the lights are dimming in his wedding hall, and your name's on every page of the contract that allowed the walls to stand in the first place. You wonder if he remembers that call. You wonder if he realizes the kitchen stool wasn't just a mistake. It was the match. You hear the doors open again. Some guests are leaving early. Others are stepping out to call Ubers, confused by the interruption, but polite enough not to ask questions. Some glance at you, still not fully registering who you are. But a few do. You see recognition ripple across one or two faces. That's all you need. You walk slowly toward the side gate, shoes crunching on gravel. No rush. The night's yours now. Halfway down the block, your phone buzzes once more. Final confirmation access codes reset. Keys changed. Staff reallocated per emergency clause. Building now operating under standard ownership conditions. You pause under a street lamp. Ownership. A funny word. So cold on paper, so warm when earned. You stare up at the light. The halo it casts looks almost theatrical. Like a spotlight you never asked for, but now maybe you don't mind so much. You keep walking one measured step at a time, as behind you, the wedding starts to stutter like a dying engine. The lights inside remain dimmed, the music still hasn't returned, and the guests are no longer dancing. They're standing whispering, holding half-drunk flutes with nervous hands. The staff knows not to speak your name. That was part of the contract too. You weren't interested in being praised, just respected. Quietly. Like the kind of power that doesn't need to announce itself to change the temperature of a room. Your phone buzzes again. This time it's not Leah, it's your brother. Daniel, 2 missed calls, 1 new message. What the hell are you doing? You don't answer. Let him sit with it. Let him stare at that screen, wondering how far this goes. Let him replay every smug joke he's made over the years, every time he called you the IT guy, like your business was just some overglorified help desk. This isn't punishment. It's the consequence of never listening. You slip your phone back into your pocket, turning onto the quiet street that wraps behind the venue. From here, you can see the loading bay again. The same one you entered through earlier in your best shirt, trying not to hope for too much. You stop, inhale. The air smells like garden roses and the faint ozone of approaching rain. The sky is darkening, stars trying to poke through the city's glow. Someone's crying inside. You can't see who, but the sound slips through a crack in the wall like steam. Not sobbing, just a choked frustration. You picture your mother, or maybe your new sister-in-law. Not because of ruined flowers or music, but because the illusion of perfection is beginning to unravel. You warn them in your own quiet way, by staying out of the spotlight, by not asking for credit, by continuing to give even when they offered nothing in return. And like many givers, you became invisible until you finally stopped. You lean against a fence and pull out your phone again. Another message, this time from your mother. Can we talk? There's no punctuation. She always does that when she's uncomfortable. You used to think it meant urgency, but now you know it means control, a test. She wants you to come back inside, play the peacemaker, fix what she won't admit she broke. You consider it. Then you write. I did talk. You just weren't listening. You hit send and feel something unwind in your chest. Not anger, not even satisfaction. Just release. You think about the venue, how you bought it 2 years ago when it was struggling, how you saw what no one else did, a chance to rebuild something beautiful from the inside out. That's always been your strength, seeing potential where others only see problems. It's why the staff respects you, why Leah always says we build quietly but thoroughly. You remember the day your brother announced his engagement, the forced smile on your face, the way your father said at least one of my sons is moving forward. And now the one they tried to forget is the one who holds the keys, literally. You check your messages again. Leah's sent one more. We've notified backup staff to prep the alternate space for tomorrow's bookings. Tonight's event is fully closed. We're resetting systems now. You pause, then you type. Hold bookings for 48 hours. I want the space quiet. Because some moments deserve stillness. This isn't about vengeance. This is about space, silence, breathing room. After years of making yourself smaller just to fit in, you're finally standing up without raising your voice. You hear footsteps. From the side gate, your brother appears, alone. No wife, no crowd, just him. Jacket unbuttoned, confused, disoriented, almost childlike in his sudden vulnerability. He sees you. You don't move. He walks closer, but not all the way. Why, he asks, voice thin. You tilt your head. Clause 17:1. That's not what I meant. You let that hang in the air. Why tonight, he adds. Why here? You stare at him, then say, because this was the only room where I had a voice? He flinches. You don't raise your tone. You don't explain more than that. If he doesn't get it now, he never will. And honestly, that's okay. Not everyone grows when you do. He looks at you like you've just shifted into someone he doesn't recognize. And maybe you have. Or maybe this was always you, just quieter, sharper in the edges he chose not to see. I didn't know, he says finally helplessly. No one told me you owned this place. You smile faintly like a teacher watching a student finally catch up. You never asked, and he hadn't. Not once. Not after you offered help. Not when the deposits were late. Not when the venue manager called you directly about the power grid upgrade 2 months ago. He'd been so sure the world orbited around his charm and your silence that he never thought to check who was keeping the lights on. He runs a hand through his hair. You can almost hear the thought scrambling behind his eyes. Is the contract permanent? Can it be reversed? What will the guests say? What will she say? But none of that is your burden anymore. This is my wedding, he says, almost pleading now. And this was my boundary. You don't say it to be cruel. You say it because it's the truth. Because somewhere along the line, you stopped thinking of yourself as an extension of their expectations. He opens his mouth, then closes it. Mom's crying. He finally offers, like, that might move you. She's good at that, you say too gently for the words to sting. He exhales hard and takes a step back, like the space between you suddenly feels heavier. Then another step. Then he turns, walking toward the venue again, slower this time. No longer the center of attention. No longer a man with a stage, just a guest at an event that's no longer happening. You watch him go, and you don't follow. You wander instead past the building through the quiet alley that loops behind the garden. You run your fingers along the cool iron fence. Somewhere beyond the hedges, you hear a generator clicking off, then the low thrum of lights going dark. The wedding is officially over. No one has made an announcement. No one needs to. The atmosphere itself has shifted. Guests are beginning to gather coats. The DJ has packed his laptop. Even the cake 3 tiers of fondant and flowers is being wheeled discreetly back toward the staff fridge. You wonder if they'll still cut it. Maybe your father will offer some boilerplate toast in the parking lot. Maybe your sister-in-law will pretend she finds the whole thing romantic in some twisted way. Remember when the venue shut down? So dramatic. But deep down, they'll all remember what it felt like. To realize the quiet one could pull the rug without ever raising their voice. You take a seat on a bench outside the garden fence. For a moment, you close your eyes. The breeze catches the collar of your jacket. Somewhere, a car honks lazily. And you remember the first time you passed this building back when it was falling apart, vines swallowing the awnings and graffiti scarring the brick. You saw potential. No one else did. That's the pattern, isn't it? You see what others overlook. You fix what others discard. And in return, they take it for granted. Until now, a car pulls up near the curb. A guest exits quietly, murmuring into a phone. You hear the tail end of the sentence, and then it just stopped. You let it pass. Not your problem. Not anymore. You stand again, brushing the dust from your hands. You head toward the far gate the private one-only staff use. Your key card still works. Of course it does. Inside, the back hallway is mostly empty now. 2 staff members finish logging out. They nod when they see you. One hesitates, then says, "For what it's worth, we all knew what you ask, that it was you behind the scenes. We saw your name in the systems, the payment logs, we just didn't say anything." You nod, "I didn't want you to." The other adds, "But it meant something, having someone like you in charge." You pause, then you say, "Make sure everyone gets paid for the full event." Their eyes widen, even though you interrupt. They showed up. That's more than I can say for most people tonight. They smile, almost relieved, then vanish down the corridor. You linger one more moment before walking to the control panel near the staff exit. A small screen blinks, "System reset complete." You press your thumb to the biometric lock. The lights inside fade to black. One by one, you step out into the night like it's welcoming you back from someplace far darker than anyone knew you went. The soft click of the gate locking behind you is final. Not angry, not dramatic, just complete. And it feels good. It feels clean. The sidewalk stretches ahead, empty now. Most of the cars are gone. Some guests linger in small, confused clusters near the front entrance, clutching favors they don't understand, and glancing back at the venue as if trying to solve a puzzle they were never taught to complete. You keep walking, past the valet stand now abandoned, past the front fountain where your brother once posed for engagement photos, leaning dramatically like he thought it made him look cinematic. You remember seeing that photo in the family group chat, and how no one thought to include you in the shoot. Just immediate family, they said. You were working anyway. Always working. But tonight you weren't invisible. Tonight they saw you, whether they wanted to or not. As you approach the far corner, you hear footsteps behind you. You don't stop. Wait, a voice calls. You do stop then. Not because you owe them anything, but because you know exactly who it is. Your mother appears beside you, arms folded tightly over her chest like she's cold, or trying to make herself smaller. You don't say anything. "You really did that?" she asks. You look at her. She already knows the answer. "I did." Her jaw tightens. "It's his wedding, you know." "I know." You wait, letting the silence stretch between you. She shifts, uncomfortable. "Couldn't you have waited? Just let it go." You almost laugh. Not because it's funny, but because it's exactly what she said your whole life. "Let it go. Don't be so sensitive. Don't make it a thing." "Letting it go is what got me here," you say softly. "To the kitchen. To being an afterthought." She opens her mouth, but you hold up a hand. "I didn't ruin his wedding. I just stopped pretending I wasn't part of it." The words hang between you like smoke. Her face falters. "I didn't know you were so angry." "I'm not," you say, and realize it's true. "I'm just done being quiet about being dismissed." She looks away, then down. Her shoulders sag. For a moment, she looks like someone you almost recognize, not the mother who smoothed your collar and told you to behave when relatives joked too hard, but a woman who might finally realize she missed something vital. "I thought you were okay," she murmurs. "I was surviving." That's not the same. Her lip quivers just once. Then she pulls herself together. "I don't know what happens next," she says, like it's a warning or maybe an apology. You nod. "Neither do I." And you walk past her. Because some truths don't need to be explained anymore. Some bridges were never built to carry your weight to begin with. At the corner, you turn left. It's quieter here. The traffic noise fades. Your footsteps echo. You feel light. Not triumphant. Not victorious. Just lighter. A car slows as it approaches your ride. Leah must have arranged it. You nod at the driver and slide into the back seat. The door closes with a soft thunk. The silence inside feels padded, gentle. You check your phone again. No new messages. No more questions. No more excuses. Just a single line of text waiting from Leah. "We left your name off the announcement as you asked. But the building knows." You smile, because that's all you ever needed. Recognition, not applause. You lean your head back as the car pulls away from the curb. The venue shrinks behind you, its facade dim, its windows empty. A shell of a party that thought it could exclude the architect of its own existence. You close your eyes and breathe in. And for the first time in a very long time, you don't feel small. You feel whole. The city slides by like a slow-moving film. Storefronts glow quietly in the night. Couples stroll along the sidewalks. Neon signs blink in distant rhythm. But inside the car, it's still. You've silenced the chaos without ever raising your voice. Now all that's left is the stillness that follows, when the fight was never loud, just final. The driver doesn't speak, and you're grateful for that. You let your head rest against the window, feeling the cool glass on your temple. A soft hum vibrates through the car's interior tires, on asphalt. The muted rumble of the engine, the faint beat of your own pulse catching up with the stillness. You think of the way your brother looked earlier, eyes wide with that unique cocktail of shame and disbelief. And your mother holding herself like she had something to protect, though it wasn't you. Not then. Maybe not ever. You don't feel anger? Just the weight of clarity. You were never going to be seated at the table, no matter how many chairs you built. They didn't forget you. They just never thought you belonged in the room. And tonight you made sure they understood that absence has a shape, a sound, and a cost. The car pulls up to your apartment building, a sleek modern tower downtown. You never invited them here, never hosted brunch or birthdays. It was always easier to meet on their terms in their houses with their rules. But now, as the elevator hums up to your floor, you realize you've never actually seen them in your world. Not once. And suddenly you like it that way. Your home is quiet, clean, sparse but full of intention. You kick your shoes off by the door and toss your jacket on the back of the couch. The lights glow soft and amber set on timers because you like the predictability of it. You pour yourself a glass of water. Not wine, not champagne, just something real. Something cold. You sit at the kitchen counter, the one no one's ever been rude enough to call small, and finally check your phone again. A voicemail. From your father. You hesitate. Then you play it on speaker. Your mother's upset, he begins. No hello. No name. We don't know what you were trying to prove, but whatever it is, you've made your point. This family isn't about power plays. It never was. You could have come to us. You smile at the irony of that. He continues, if you want to talk like adults, we're here. But this behavior isn't how families fix things. The message ends. No mention of the kitchen, of the exclusion, of the napkin with your name misspelled. You delete it, because the only way to fix things is to admit they were broken. And they won't. You set the phone down and just sit for a while. There's a kind of peace in that. The weight in your chest isn't guilt. It's the long exhaled breath of someone who finally chose themselves, even if no one else clapped. You think about the staff, how they saw you even if they said nothing. About Leah, who never needed a performance to understand your boundaries. About your own silence tonight and how much louder it rang than anything a microphone could carry. Maybe tomorrow someone in your family will try again. Call, text, suggest coffee. Maybe not, but tonight they know. And you're not their afterthought anymore. You finish your water, stand, and walk into the bedroom where the night is waiting, where sleep doesn't need to be earned through silence or sacrifice, where the door closes not in defiance, but in peace. Morning light slips through your blinds like it's been instructed to arrive softly. No alarms, no expectations. Just the world doing what it always does, rotating on its axis, while people spin stories about who belongs where. You sit up slowly. No urgency today. You check your phone, a few texts, most from people you don't need to respond to. A couple from distant relatives, cautious nosy. One simply says, heard what happened. You okay? You don't answer, because you're more than okay. You're finally correct, aligned, in your own skin at your own pace. In the kitchen, the kettle whistles. You make tea, not coffee. Coffee is for bracing against something. Tea is for resting inside yourself. You wrap your hands around the mug and wander to the window looking out at the city. It's a quiet Sunday. People walking dogs, sunlight catching on office windows, everything pretending to be ordinary. You think of the venue, your venue locked, now resting. You imagine the flowers wilting a little under last night's heat, the confetti unswept, the last few champagne flutes left on tables like forgotten punctuation marks. Your phone buzzes again. Leah, we'll do a full reset Monday. Want to rename the venue? You stare at the screen for a while, then type, no, let the name stay. It's not about erasing, it's about owning. A moment later, she replies with a single word. Understood. She always does. You move to your desk and open your laptop. A familiar screen loads, contracts staff schedules, financials. You scroll through without urgency. There's comfort in the order, in the work, in the fact that this world makes sense even when families don't. You notice a folder marked wedding notes. You hover over it, then slowly drag it to the trash. Not angrily, just done. You remember that one comment from the night before. At least he knows his place. They were right. You do. It just wasn't the place they meant. You close the laptop. You've done enough explaining. You get dressed slowly, comfortable jeans, a soft shirt, a jacket you actually like. No meetings today, no staff calls. Just you. You leave the apartment and take a walk. Through the park, down past the street vendors where the air smells like roasted peanuts and fresh bread. Someone offers you a flyer. You take it without looking, fold it, keep walking. No need to reject or respond. Some things don't need an answer. You end up at your favorite cafe. The barista greets you by name. No fanfare, just familiarity. You take your drink to a small table by the window. And as you sit there watching the world pass by without needing to intercept it, you realize something that settles deep in your chest. Last night wasn't the collapse of anything. It was the beginning. Not a war, not a win. Just a shift, a decision to stop shrinking, to stop apologizing for outgrowing the version of yourself they preferred. Quieter, more convenient, less complicated. And it turns out the only thing louder than a confrontation is the silence of someone finally choosing their own seat at their own table. The rest of your day unfolds like a soft breath, unforced, uninterrupted. No calls that need answering. No family group chats buzzing with excuses or postmortems. Just you moving through your space like it finally belongs to you. Maybe because it always did. You light a candle that smells faintly of cedar and citrus, let it flicker without purpose. The kind of small ritual that doesn't fix anything but reminds you that nothing needs fixing right now. You sit by the window again as dusk returns. The light outside fades gently, slipping into that blue hour where everything looks a little more honest, where even silence feels like company. You think back not to last night, not to the wedding, not even to the contract, but to the younger version of yourself, the one who waited for invitations that never came, who stayed quiet to keep the peace, who mistook endurance for love. You sit with him for a moment, then you let him rest, because he did the best he could with what he had. And now you have more clarity, more strength, more space to breathe without permission. You don't know what your brother will say next, or your parents, or any of them. But you do know this. You no longer need to prove your place in a family that made a habit of forgetting you. You've already built your own. One seat, at your own table, lit by your own kind of light. And as the night folds itself around you quietly and completely, you lie back, close your eyes. And remember, some nights just lying still and breathing softly is enough to return home to yourself.